beginning to look a lot like a Texans game day. We are 1 day away. Texans versus the Ravens Christmas Day. I'll be live on the channel, but for today's show, I got to break down some of the top Texans storylines, the top Texans rumors going on around this team, because even though we have a game tomorrow, it seems like a lot of the focus is kind of moving past this game, around the roster, about the playoffs, even the offseason. So I'm going to break it all down. We're talking, could the Texans trade for Garrett Wilson this offseason? What about that Texans offensive line? Is this the unit we're going to see for the rest of the season? And should the Texans rest their starters for the remainder of the regular season? I'll break all that down on today's show. But got a special deal for all of you. We are going to have a giveaway on tomorrow's show. And I'm in the giving mood. You know, the holiday season, producer Coop. So I decided I'm going to give away 5 free raffle tickets at random. All you got to do, DM me your Texans versus Ravens score prediction at Texans Today CS. Go ahead, go follow me on IG. Go DM me your schedule predictions. My DMs, they're always open. So go over there, hit me up on IG in those DMs, and give me your Texans versus Ravens score prediction. 5 random people. Started tomorrow's show. You're getting free raffle tickets for our giveaway. And I promise you this, you're going to want this cool special prize we have in store for you tomorrow. But for today's show, let's break down, should the Texans trade for Garrett Wilson this offseason? I'm going to give this one 3 Toro heads because I really like the idea of it, and I know what I'm already going to get. Jeremy, you're already looking to the offseason? Chuggs, what are you doing? We have the rest of the season. We have the playoffs. I get it. But enough people are talking about it. There's enough smoke around this rumor that, sue me, I want to talk about it. Because Wilson seems very unhappy in New York, and the trade rumors are, in fact, heating up. Texans fans online, they want this done. I have yet to see a single Texans fan on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Reddit, on MySpace, on wherever, on LinkedIn. I have yet to see a single Texans fan be like, I hate the idea of going out and getting Garrett Wilson. Because he's one of the top young receivers in the NFL. And the idea of pairing him with a Nico Collins seems, pretty enticing, especially with the news around Tank Dell in that he might not be available for next season. So looking forward, the idea of trading for Garrett Wilson is a very attractive one for Nick Caserio, for the Texans front office. Now, the question then bears, what is it going to cost to get Wilson's services? So I put together just some recent wide receiver trades that we've seen in the NFL, just for some reference. So Julio Jones went for a 2nd and a 4th to the Tennessee Titans. Tyreek Hill went for, a king's ransom to the Miami Dolphins. A 1st, a 2nd, 2 4ths, a 6th. A.J. Brown went for a 1st and a 3rd to the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, the Texans this past offseason got Stefon Diggs for a 2nd-round pick. Marquise Hollywood Brown went for a 3rd and a 1st to the Arizona Cardinals. And the Jags got Calvin Ridley for a 5th and a 3rd-round pick. So seeing all this, seeing kind of the value of everything, this is the trade that I cooked up. And I tried to make it fair on both sides in that it's a realistic trade that I think the Texans might come out a little bit on top. So I kind of mirrored a little bit of the A.J. Brown trade, but I actually threw in 1 extra draft pick in 2026 simply because Garrett Wilson, a little bit younger, and that contract, which we'll get into in just a moment, a little bit more enticing than A.J. Brown's. But let me know, would you make this trade? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with the YouTube ad break, perfect timing. Scroll on down and give me your answer. Would you make this trade if you're the Houston Texans? Give me a yes. Give me a no. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'm in on making this deal. I'm in on doing what we need to do to get Garrett Wilson in the building. Obviously, former Ohio State receiver has that connection already with C.J. Stroud. And the Texans will have 2 more years of Wilson on a rookie deal. And that's why I made the compensation a little bit more for the Jets, because unlike the A.J. Brown trade where the Eagles had to turn around and immediately pay him, You actually don't need to do that with Garrett Wilson. You'll get 2 years of Garrett Wilson at least if you make this trade for him. And what goes on beyond that, I mean, I don't know if you'll be able to pay him with all the young guys that you have on this team, but at least if you're in win now mode, if you're looking at the, right now, this helps your team in the immediate future for the next 2 seasons. Now, it kind of goes into this storyline of, will the Texans re-sign Stefon Diggs? Because if they re-sign Stefon Diggs, I don't know if it makes as much sense going out and trading for a Garrett Wilson. There's already been that connection. CJ Stroud has talked about Stefon Diggs. Stefon Diggs has talked about would love to come back to the Houston Texans next season. So there's already that connection there. He's already spent time with the team, with the coaching staff, with this organization. So there's already that, sense of continuity between Stefon Diggs and the Houston Texans. So that might, throw a wrench in these plans of going out and trading for Garrett Wilson. And I will also say this. I'm much more concerned about the Texans' offensive line than I am at wide receiver. That needs to be fixed first. So if you don't have a plan to add some more offensive line talent in free agency, I don't know if I would make this deal, because you're giving up a first and a third this year, and those are some key assets that you could use to go out and get some more offensive line talent. And if you're not going to do that in free agency, you got to do it in the draft, and you can't do that if you send all your picks to the New York Jets for Garrett Wilson. If that's the case, I would much rather go ahead and just draft a wide receiver in the second round than going out and trading for Garrett Wilson. But, I mean, obviously, Wilson is a top 5, top 10 talent in the NFL right now at wide receiver. So adding him to this offense, adding to this team would be fantastic. But none of that matters if the O-line is trash, which is actually, funny enough, our next topic on today's program. The Texans, should they keep this O-line unit that played up against the Chiefs for the majority of the snaps? I'll tell you in just a moment. But first, got to show some love to our sponsors over at PrizePicks. Get started today with America's #1 daily fantasy sports app out there with over 5 million active members. Make your holidays just a little bit bigger and brighter with PrizePicks. Now, I celebrate Hanukkah, but I also celebrate Picksmas, which is what PrizePicks has going for you in the month of December. You can win up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks this holiday season. They're also giving away 2 free picks during Picksmas and over $30 million in rewards and prizes. So get started today with PrizePicks, our #1 daily fantasy sports app here at Chat Sports. And if you're like, I don't even know where to start, Jeremy, well, how about this? This is my lineup that I put in for tomorrow's Xmas game. Nico Collins, 0.5 rushing and receiving touchdowns, a demon pick. Give me the more on that. And Mark Andrews, let's put the lock on him. 37.5 receiving yards. I'm going to go less on that. So, use my picks. Go against my picks. Do it on PrizePicks. And use that code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So get started today with PrizePicks. Run your game. Now, Texans, should they keep this offensive line unit for this season? I'm not talking about past this year. I'm talking about for this season. I'm going to go 4 Toro heads. This is maybe one of the better offensive line units that I've seen configured with the guys that we have on this team. And I don't know how much better you can get than these 5 guys who are on the field. I thought the interior actually did pretty decent up against the Kansas City Chiefs with the addition of Kendrick Green at right guard, in for Shaq Mason, Titus Howard at left guard, Jarrett Patterson at center, the rookie Blake Fisher at right tackle, and Laramie Tunsil at left tackle. I mean, this unit played pretty well up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, what were they perfect? Were they, a top 5, top 10 unit? No, but considering what we've seen this year from this Texans offensive line, I would say they're, maybe the top 3 performances that we've seen from this unit, and they didn't blow me away up against the Chiefs, but still, they've been that bad. And Titus Howard, by far, is your best left guard on the team, and that's not saying much because of the guys that we've seen there. Kenyon Green, Juice Scruggs, they haven't cut it at left guard. Titus Howard is clearly better than both those guys. And I want to see more of the rookie, Blake Fisher, at right tackle. So I want to see this O-line configuration and the addition of Kendrick Green, which I mentioned. I think Kendrick Green could be better than Shaq Mason. And especially with that injury that he has, that sprained knee, I think he already was having a very down year in terms of what we've seen out of Shaq Mason. Now you add a sprained knee on top of that. I feel much more comfortable with Kendrick Green having Shaq Mason as a backup swing interior offensive lineman if needed, but just going with Kendrick Green because right now he's the healthier of the two. And a hobbled Shaq Mason, he wasn't good when he was healthy for this season. So I don't want to see a hobbled Shaq Mason going into the playoffs protecting C.J. Stroud. I just don't want to see it. So let's go into this last topic on today's show. The Texans. Should they rest their starters? I'm going to give this one Toro head. I'm not in the camp of sitting out all your guys, especially when you could still technically move up in the playoff race. You could still technically get the 3 seed if certain things go your way. But one of my good friends out there, Landry Locker, I know Big Coop, good friends with Landry Locker. This is what he had to say on it. He said, screw 3 games in 11 days with moderate benefit versus risk. I'd rest important guys and turn a grueling situation into an advantage. I'd rest Mixon, Anderson, Nico. I don't know who Anderson Nico is. I think he meant Will Anderson and then Nico Collins. Derek Stingley tomorrow, and let them stay on the field and watch Beyonce at halftime. Let all the wide receivers and running backs get work. And I mean, I somewhat agree with them. You know, you're looking at the AFC playoff picture right now. You're a game back of whoever ultimately gets the NFC or the AFC North Championship between the Steelers and Ravens. You're a game back on both of them. And if you lose to the Ravens, I mean, you're really not playing for anything at that point. You might as well rest everybody up against the Tennessee Titans because there's literally nothing that can benefit you from winning that Week 18 game. My only worry is about the rust. I know sitting out guys is going to help with the health and help with everything, but I don't want this team going into the wild card weekend a little bit stale. I don't think all the starters should sit, but kind of like Landry Locker was saying, some guys with some nagging injuries. I wouldn't mind if they got this Wednesday's game off, like a Will Anderson Jr., who has been battling injuries on and off all throughout the year. Same with Joe Mixon, another guy. Nico Collins maybe as well. I know he's had some injury issues this season. So some of the key guys that are dealing with injuries, I wouldn't mind if they're, say, a Will Anderson Jr. is 75, 80% good to go up against the Ravens. I wouldn't mind sitting him and saving him for the playoffs. But in terms of all the starters, I'm not on that boat to just rest every single person at that point. And if you're going to rest Nico Collins and Joe Mixon, I don't know if it makes a ton of sense to put C.J. Stroud out there with, minimal weapons around him going up against a Ravens defense. I think at that point, you're putting your quarterback at risk. So if you're going to rest all those guys, I think you might as well rest C.J. Stroud too, right? I mean, Coop's nodding his head in the background. I think at that point, if you're resting all your guys, I'm not putting C.J. Stroud out there dead to rights up against this Ravens defense to just say, hey, good luck. We're sitting everybody else but you. But regardless of who plays, who doesn't, whether you like, love, or hate Beyonce, I'll be live tomorrow for the Christmas Day matchup. Ravens at Texans on a holiday edition of Texans Today. Remember, game's going to be at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm going to be going live maybe 30, 45 minutes before kickoff. And reminder, a special giveaway tomorrow. So if you want a free raffle ticket, I'm going to put the link to my Instagram down in the comment section. Go DM me your score predictions. I'm giving away 5 free raffle tickets for our giveaway on tomorrow's live show.